And we're going to start the video, and we should be good. If you guys haven't seen these little owl things, they're really fun. Has anybody else seen them before? It's this little owl guy. I guess my hands look huge, but it records kind of all over the room and tries to pick up sound from people. So they're really fun, especially if you have to ever dial in or zoom into a meeting. But we don't need me just talking about the owl the whole time. So welcome to MedSurg. We got a lot of the orientation stuff out of the way. So couple of things. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit. So if you haven't read in my bio or the things on Canvas, you're welcome to. But my name is Rebecca. I've been a nurse for a little over 20 years. Most of my time has been in MedSurg. I've also done IV team, IR, critical care. Right now, I work per diem, which means kind of super part-time at St. Clair Hospital in the recovery room. I love taking care of people who are sleepy or not so sleepy going into surgery. That's super fun too. I was a nursing assistant while I was going through nursing school, and I really value our entire healthcare team, especially our nursing assistants. I think they're really undervalued as part of the team, and we'll talk more about that later. I am married. I've got 2 kids that are in high school. They both started driving this year, so I have more gray hair and I'm a little stressed out sometimes. Last night, my daughter in the rain was a lot of fun. Boys and girls, teaching them how to drive is a very different experience. I wasn't expecting that. We have a giant Saint Bernard who loves to snuggle and do all things, that she thinks little dogs should do, but she's a giant dog and she thinks she can do that as well. I've been teaching at Bates for about 6 years. I started as a clinical instructor when I was in nursing school. That was one of my dreams, was to be a clinical instructor. I thought, wow, maybe someday that could be something I would do. I was really nervous. And then I had the opportunity to do that about 6 years ago. Amanda is actually a good friend of mine for years beyond 6 years ago and said, really, you should come try this. And I really love teaching and instructing. I'm honored that you guys are trusting your education to me and to Bates, because I think we're going to take care of them, right? You guys are the next generation. And so the fact that I get to help be part of that process is very honoring. And so thank you very much for trusting me and Bates as an organization with that honor. We talked about school being a little overwhelming, or a lot overwhelming. In about 3 weeks, you're going to feel absolutely overwhelmed. You might feel overwhelmed now. In 3 weeks, you might even feel worse. That's okay. Your brain is adjusting, figuring out how to get this all together. It will mesh. It will come together. You are going to be successful. You just have to give yourself some grace and give yourself some time. Sometimes you think, gosh, I just can't. I don't know why I'm not getting this. Instead of reading that chapter one more time, go take a nap. Go take a walk. Give your friend a call. Sometimes you need to do something else besides the thing that feels so important to get that really important thing to kind of seep into your brain. So let's go over a couple things, expectations with the class. I write out things just so we all know what we're doing for the day, goals and objectives. This is for the first part of the class. So I think I wrote them on both sides. They should be mostly the same. Hopefully they're the same. So reviewing this course learning outcomes. Actually, before we do that, let's look at Canvas a little bit, just because I want to make sure we're on the same page when we're looking at Canvas. So if you haven't, this is, go to your Canvas dashboard. This is our MedSurg class. And this is our class. The way to navigate Canvas is typically, or what I would suggest, is to go through the modules. So this is week 1. Right here, we're in week 1, critical thinking, nursing judgment issues. And today's date, the date listed is always going to be the date that we have lecture. I like to put an overview, which is what I'm going to click on. And so you guys know exactly what we're talking about, what to read, and what assignments we have for the week. So here we're talking about critical thinking. I'm not going to read that all again, but this week's content relates to course student learning outcome 1, which is using critical thinking and clinical judgment, which we're going to talk about. We're going to describe pathophysiology, physiology, etiology, normal and abnormal findings while caring for a client in a variety of medical surgical conditions. Does that mean that we're going to master all of that today?
No.
No, it means that today and what we learn and the readings and the assignments are going to move us closer to being able to complete that outcome. You can click on this. It's actually a hyperlink of a page that I made that it has all of our learning outcomes. So we just talked about outcome 1. Outcome 2 is demonstrate an understanding of the PN role in creating a healing environment for patients in a variety of healthcare settings. 3, describe principles of safety, patient-centered care, and health promotion while caring for patients with medical, surgical, and various settings. 4, describe the effects of culture, socioeconomics, race, and religion across the lifespan. And 5, describe ethical and legal considerations for clients with various medical, surgical conditions across the lifespan. So if you've taken the syllabus acknowledgement quiz already, one of the questions was you had to type in one of our course learning outcomes, which would have been one of these. I returned some of your assignments and asked you to review, I think it was question number 2, that had the course outcomes, because some of you guys maybe said something like nursing judgments or, critical thinking. That doesn't really fully say what our outcome is, right? We're going to use critical thinking, but how are we using it? So I want you to go ahead and just resubmit. If I send that back to you, just type out like, hey, this is the full outcome. Yeah.
Yes, you did send that back to me.
Yeah.
So I can do it. I think you have to grade it and then.
Okay, see me after class and we'll look at it just to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So if you're one of the students, let me know if you're not able to resubmit it, but it's important that we know it's not just clinical judgment or critical thinking. It's really how are we using it as one of our course outcomes. All right, so going back. Oh, and you know what? In my little Zoom here, I'm going to share my screen so that people can see it. There we go. All right, so we're here in class in room B409. Good job, you guys. You made it. You're here. I have hyperlinks to the Davis Advantage. So if you click on this and you're logged into Davis, it should take you right to your Davis book. We're going to go back to that in just a minute. Let me pull you down. And then these are the assignments that we have due. Like one of them was to join our FA Davis class. So if you haven't joined the class, or maybe you just did that today, this kind of talks you through, how we're doing or what we're using as FA Davis, and then how to join the class. And then here you have to, you guys don't see it on my end, but on your end, there should be a submit and you type done into the text box. You can also, instead of going back and forth at the bottom of the screen, if you're new to Canvas, you can hit next, and that will just take you to the next page that's in order. This is a syllabus acknowledgement quiz, which we'll talk about in just a minute. I want to talk a little bit about KWL. Does everybody have one of these? Yeah. So in just a minute, before we start kind of our content portion.
Is that in module?
Yep. In the module under week 1, there should be KWL. So you guys have a paper that looks like this.
Oh.
I like to use this as a learning activity in every class, and I use this as your credit towards attendance. So every class in the nursing program, we like to say attendance is part of your grade, being here. So this is something that you're going to do in class. We're not going to do it right now. I'm just going to give you an overview, so you don't have to fill out anything. The K is what I know. So in a little bit, I'm going to have you write down all the things that you know about the topic we're going to discuss. And then the W is, what do I want to know? What questions did I have while reading the textbook or while I was taking the quizzes? What did I not understand? And then after we're done with our lecture, we bring that page back out. And then under the L, we say, what did I learn? Did I answer any of these questions? Did something kind of stick with me that I didn't get before? I do prefer these to be handwritten because I think there's a good brain-body connection that happens. And so I do want you to write them in class. When you're done, you can just snap a picture of them and put them up into Canvas. And that's your attendance grade. Any questions about that? Well, I don't have them on test days because the test that you, the fact that you took it shows that you're here, right?
Right.
All right, so let's go back out of here. And I think, okay, so discussion boards. In discussion boards, I want to make sure that you guys know how I grade those. I try to be really clear with my instructions with our assignments so you guys know what's expected and what to do. I'm always going to tell you your objective, your tasks, and then directions. I want to make sure you look at this because I think some of you guys maybe missed part of this. So your initial post was due or is due on the 27th. And I gave you a prompt telling you kind of to introduce yourself. Everybody who's done this has done a great job of following the prompts. A few people haven't maybe gotten around to, or maybe didn't read to the second part. That's another part of this assignment is that you have to comment on one of your peers. So after you tell us about yourself, reply to at least one other participant. There's going to be other discussion boards where I'm going to ask you to respond to 2 or 3. It depends on the assignment and really what the interaction that I want you guys to have. So please make sure you read the instructions because I've had a lot of students in the past, they'll make that initial discussion post, but they don't go back and respond to their peers. When they don't do that, they don't get credit for all of the assignment. I try to put rubrics on almost all my assignments. So here, if you don't see it at the bottom, you can always click on the 3 dots and it will usually show you the rubric. So here, initial post answers all questions. You get 50 points if you do it. Reply to at least one other student using proper etiquette, 50 points if you do it. Okay, it's pretty simple with this. There's going to be other rubrics that might be a little more detailed than this. This is kind of a get to know discussion boards. So we're all learning how to do it. So please make sure if you haven't done this discussion board yet, go ahead, introduce yourself to the class, and then make sure you respond to at least one other student. Any questions about discussion boards? All right. Ooh, you guys were so good interacting. I loved getting to hear all about you guys. Okay, so then Davis Edge. We just learned a lot about Davis Edge. So some of you guys were really adventurous and you went in and started doing a bunch of assignments in FA Davis. Great. I wiped all those clean because we haven't covered a lot of those assignments, that material yet. And the grade that you got is probably not one that you would get if you actually had done the read the chapters, gone through and done some of the things, right? So that's why the first week I just kind of go through and say, hey, we're just going to wipe it out. When we go into FA Davis, oh, where do I have it at? Oh yeah, here's my student view. So I have a list of all of these, and Chris, who was just here, was trying to help me. There's not a way to organize them by when they're doing Canvas unless I put due dates on them. And I don't do that because it gets really convoluted when we have to change things in Canvas around. So, and this is going to be kind of similar to what you're going to do in ATI in your foundations class, and I think mental health as well. So how do you know what assignment to do? Canvas. Canvas is going to be your guide. So don't look at FA Davis as really what's kind of trying to figure out what to do. Always go to Canvas because we know after you've done your reading, we already said, okay, the chapters for this week were 1, 2, and 3. Once you've done that reading, you need to go to FA Davis, and I even put a link here, and complete the Edge Quizzing, Critical Thinking, and Clinical Judgment. So if we go back to the module, I think that's the only FA Davis assignment I had this week. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it even says here on the assignment name. So when you go to your assignments, you could click all or active. They should be all the same right now. If you don't see them all here, there should be something on the bottom, like a little box that says view all, and that will then expand the rest of the assignments. It might not show them all to you right there, but you're going to scroll through and find which is the Edge Quizzing, Critical Thinking, Clinical Judgment. You can filter these. So see this little guy up here? You can kind of sort them a little bit differently if you want to, if that helps you find them. But I do want to make sure that you see in the assignments, you've got personalized learning, clinical judgment, and quizzing. you're going to have quizzing every week. Quizzing goes over, they're quizzes that either F.A. Davis made or that I created that are related to the content that we cover each week. Those quizzes, I want you to not take them super seriously, but they are graded for, like, that's your grade. So when you take that quiz, it's usually 10 to 15 questions. When you take that quiz, whatever your grade is, if you got 5 out of the 10 questions, then your grade is 50%. We don't retake them. So I do want you to kind of put some thought into the quiz as you're taking them. Okay. So they call it the traditional approach. The grade you get for the quiz is what you get for your Canvas assignment. When you finish the quiz, it's going to give you a little thing saying how you did and give you your percentage grade. You take either a screenshot or you download that report, and that's what you submit into Canvas. On the personalized learning or clinical judgment, those ones are graded on what's called participation. So you go in and you complete it. Some of them take 10 minutes, some of them take 15, maybe a little bit longer. You just go in and complete and go through all of those, like, it kind of walks you through either scenarios or questions. It goes step by step. You complete that and you upload your report that you completed it, and you get full points for those assignments. Okay. They're more of like kind of have you think working through things. So any questions about the participation grade versus the quizzing regular traditional grade? Not so much. Okay. So again, in quizzing, please do not go start taking a bunch of these quizzes, because if you do take them now, you're kind of taking away your chance to take them later, right? If something happens where you're like, oh my gosh, I opened up the wrong quiz and now it's, something's happened, email me, let me know. But if you already took some of these, just know I cleared them all out. So you're not stuck with the grade that you had for like 6 months from now. Well, no, we're not going to be here 6 months now, but it's all kind of level set again. Okay, so going back to our course module, actually, any questions? Yeah.
For the quizzes, you said that whatever we did on the quiz, that's our grade.
Yeah.
So what if we scored really bad? Can you retake it or?
Nope, that's your grade. Yeah, so that's why I really want you to put some thought and effort into it, and really, like, it should be doing the reading, I don't want you just to take the quiz, like, you might take it quickly because you're like, I forgot. But really, it should be after you do your reading, getting ready, and it should be as part of your preparation for class. So that is part of our class structure, is that I want you to come in prepared. This is a 3-credit class. We're only here in lecture for 2 hours. And so that means that about an hour of your time for like your coursework is going to be done at home. Do you guys know in college credits, if you're taking maybe just a 1 credit hour class, how much time are you supposed to be prepping, reading, studying for that 1 credit?
2 hours.
2 hours. So for this class is a 3-hour class. How many hours is that prepping, reading, getting ready? That's 6 hours. Plus you have another 6 hours. Plus 1 hour of your work. So we're only in class for 2 hours is at home. So outside of this classroom, you should be expecting to spend about 7 hours reading, studying, doing assignments, prepping for class. So I know that feels like a lot, especially when you have several other courses that you're taking. But that is part of what we signed up for to get through. I will say, I know there's students who are still working. That's really hard to do. This program it's a 3-term program. It's kind of an accelerated program. It is very tough to work full-time and go to school full-time. If you're working night shift and coming here after class, it is very difficult to be successful. So if you have any other options, if you need resources, things to get you through to the next 3 terms, I really suggest you come talk to me, Amanda. We'll try to get you set up with some resources, because we've seen a lot of students who really want to succeed, but because of they can't commit the time they need to be successful, have not been able to succeed. And so I want you guys all to be able to be successful with this. Any questions there? Too much? Okay.
I actually have another question.
Yeah.
Would it be too much to ask if they could have you report the classes every day?
Yeah, I'm fine fine with that, as long as everybody else's mind being recorded as well. Yeah, okay. I'll remind us at the beginning of each class. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So let's see. Let's go through, and I just want to look at. Okay, so I have to remind myself, what are our objectives today? Okay, we talked about the course learning outcomes. We talked a little bit about class structure. I want to talk about policy, which really means nursing policy. A lot of this is in the syllabus. So let's just open that up and look together. I know it seems a little bit tedious, but the syllabus is really what I am bound to and what you guys are bound to. And so that's why I like just to make sure we are all on the same page. We know, like, we're all in it together. So it does have our time. Oh, it does say 11. I need to change that. It's just a 10. Syllabus is subject to change, and I will let you know if and when I do change it, and I will change this to say 10 o'clock. I did add on some office hours. I'm going to be available Monday. It'll be 10 to noon, so after class. I'm also going to be available Thursday afternoon, evenings as well, and that's going to be through a Zoom link. So just message me if you want to meet me in the Zoom link, or if you're not available in those times, just send me a Canvas message or email me. I'm happy to meet outside of other hours as well. We'll find a time that works. Amanda is also available by appointment as well. I will try to get back to you within 24 to 48 hours when you message me. On the weekends, it might take a little bit longer, just because I might not always be available on the weekends. I try to check my messages pretty regularly. You guys know about the prerequisites. We kind of talked already about our objectives. This is the beginning of medical surgical nursing, kind of really that foundation of medical surgical issues. We're kind of building like what we know about them. You guys took anatomy and physiology. What is pathophysiology? Anybody answer that for me? Be brave. It's like, yeah, diseases, right? So physiology is like how something works. Patho is like when it's not working right, when something is wrong. And so that's when we talk about pathophysiology. You know, we've learned about the heart, but what about if somebody has vascular disease in their heart? It's not working right. That would be a pathophysiology, like coronary artery disease, which we're not learning about this term, so it might be not the best example. We talked about our outcomes. And just so you guys know, if you want to look at this box here, it might look a little confusing, but just so you know, we have course outcomes, which are all listed down here. And then we have program outcomes. By the end of this program, these are the outcomes that you should be mastered or reach mastery level to graduate from the program. We also have institutional outcomes, and then NLN CNEA objectives. And that's our accrediting body. That's who kind of says, hey, you guys are able to be a nursing school, a college. We have accreditation through them. I'm not going to go over all of those because my voice will give out. Textbook, F.A. Davis, we've talked about it. We included ATI on here because there might be a little bit of overlap eventually. Right now, we're going to really lean into the F.A. Davis. Optional, there's a concept mapping book. That's going to be a little bit later in the term. We're going to talk about concept mapping. Eventually in the program, you probably want to either look at that or borrow one of the resources from the faculty about concept mapping. It's a way of kind of putting information together, like how do things connect? We'll talk a little bit more. Got to have a laptop or something, a tablet, something where you can access Canvas, access our devices, use Flash. We have our schedule calendar on here, and it tells what week by week what we're going by, which probably should look pretty familiar because in Canvas, the module weeks say the same things. Like week 1 was critical thinking, clinical judgment issues. I do have on the other column here where it says when we have tests, the final, and then projects. So the individual project is one you can start looking up in a little bit, but it's about, I think it's ACEs score. I'll have to look and see. But that's one that you're just doing on your own. Later in the term, when we talk about acid-base, fluid, and electrolytes, you guys are going to be broken up into groups. And as a group, you're going to be presenting something else to the class regarding that subject. So just know there's going to be a group project coming up. Every class that you take in nursing is going to have a group project and an individual project. That's part of our structure. And then for this class, we just have 2 tests and 1 final exam. All of our tests are going to be in the testing center, which most of you guys probably, Amanda, did you CASAs in the testing center? Okay, so you probably have been there. We'll help remind you once it's coming closer to those testing weeks. But we all do tests in the testing center. Okay, backing up a little bit, support. So Amanda's support class, you guys are probably all logged in there. Again, standard across the nursing program, 5% of your grade is being in that support class with Amanda. So let's say in her support class, your total grade for the whole class is 100. Well, that's full 5% of that you get for this class, if that makes sense. If your grade in Amanda's class was 50%, which I can't imagine that happening, you would only get 2.5% of that 5%. That's for this class. So it really does help you. There's been a lot of students who have struggled. They've had a hard time with some of the classes, and that support grade, that 5% can make a really big difference. Not only that, but a lot of the things that are in this, actually everything in that support class is geared to help you be successful in your other nursing classes. She's doing things specifically that will help you in this class, that are going to help you in your foundations. It's going to help you be successful the more you participate in there. All right, assignments. We talked about discussion boards, group projects, the final exams, grading category. So this is how the grades for the class is broken down. So just full transparency. Your group project is worth 10% of your overall grade. Your individual project is worth 5%. The weekly assignments, like your quizzing, some discussion, actually not discussion boards, that's mostly the quizzing and other things. Those are worth 20% of your grade. Support is worth 5%. Your attendance or your KWL forms that you do in class, those are also worth 5%. Your tests are worth 30%, and then the final is worth 20% of the grade. Any questions about how the grades for the class is broken down? Not so much? Okay, you can always message me if you have questions. And again, here, in case some students aren't sure with like your percentage and then your grade point average, this little chart kind of shows, based on what percentage you have, what that means for your grade point average. Minimum passing grade for all nursing courses is 80%. IBEST supports, that's with Amanda's support class. Some of our policies and procedures. So remediation, a lot of students have a lot of questions about remediation. I'm just going to keep it really brief because nobody's in remediation right now. If you have, it's mostly on test taking. If you score below 80 on 2 consecutive tests or below 75 on 1 test, then you're put in what's called nursing remediation. And that just means we're like, hey, there might be an issue. Maybe you didn't sleep the night before. Maybe there's some concept you're really struggling with. Maybe there's like some study habits we can help you with, but we want to kind of intervene earlier rather than just say, hey, you didn't get the 80% you needed to pass, so sorry. We really want to say, if you're struggling, let's help you out early. Let's get you back on board so you can make that 80%. So remediation really isn't a punishment. It's not that you're in trouble if you get below those scores. It's no, we want to say, hey, how can we help you to get to that 80%? The assignments that we give you are geared towards getting you to that 80%, not just trying to bog you down with other assignments. That. Amanda, anything else you want to say about remediation? Not so much. Okay. And then you can also be put in remediation by an instructor that just feels like you're at risk of not passing. So maybe on your individual project, you just bomb it, and who knows why. But I can go in and say, you know what? I really feel like some remediation is going to help you along because I don't want you to bomb the group project or something else. And so you might go into remediation just to help get you up so that you can be successful in your next project. Does that make sense? So it's subject to your nursing instructor's discretion as well, if they feel like that's really going to help you. Late work. So most of you guys have already done the syllabus acknowledgement quiz, which late work, can you submit anything after the due date and time without notifying? No, so what do you have to do if you know you're gonna be late in an assignment?
At least 30 minutes prior.
Yeah, notify your instructor at least 30 minutes prior. I usually will take it like up to the assignment when it is due. But where do you notify me? On
the
Canvas,
assignment.
on the assignment. So you need to go to Canvas, go to the assignment that you're gonna be late on, and just say, hey, I'm gonna be late turning this in. That's all you have to say. What I encourage you guys to do, if you don't, maybe you think you're gonna be late, you're like, oh, this is gonna be close. Just say, hey, I might be late. That gives you that grace. That gives you extra time to turn it in. If you are still on time, I don't deduct any points from that because you turned it in on time. But if you're late, if you don't tell me, I'm bound to the syllabus. I can't give you credit for something if you don't let me know ahead of the time. And once you're late, you have 2 days or 48 hours from when it is due to turn it in. So any questions on that? If it was due like today at 8 o'clock, you would have until which day? Tuesday or 2 days, which is Wednesday, at 8 o'clock to turn it in. And then you get 10% off if it's within the first 24 hours, and then 20% off if it's within 48 hours. Any questions? Yeah.
I have a question regarding remediation.
Yeah.
So, on Thursday, does that mean they're free until we have remediation or open lab schedule?
So I think you guys are all gonna be here this Thursday, because there's gonna be like a group work, like kind of, I don't know what you wanna call it.
We're gonna do
Zoom on Thursday.
So this Thursday, everyone needs to be here. Based on the first week's schedule that we do. And then, the following Thursday, we can come to open lab, if you want to come to the lab skills that we were, whatever day that we have that. And then, nobody should be on remediation next Thursday. Remediation has to be discussed. But we will let you know after the first following. So if you want to come for remediation and you're not on remediation, you will have a new practice, you are welcome.
Mhm.
And the welcome to open up. You don't. We will schedule it for you.
Yeah.
So I'm saying the lab, then we have to be here both Tuesday and Wednesday, even if we're scheduled for just one day. If you're just scheduled for Tuesday, you can come Tuesday, even though this week. Yes, go ahead.
Mhm. Yeah, we're bound by state law, or is our accrediting body law, by how many students we can have in our lab group and in our clinical groups. So we can't, I mean, it would be impossible for me to teach you all one skill, right? Or me to have you all in one clinical area. So we have to break you up into smaller groups in order to be in compliance and to give you good education. Yeah.
Does that mean we don't have school on Thursday?
So I don't want to say you don't have school. What you have is open lab, which means if you're struggling with a skill, sometimes your instructor might say, hey, I'd like you to come back to open lab because you might struggle and you might need that practice. So you have that open to you, but you don't have to be there unless your instructor says, hey, you really do need to come to open lab. And you have remediation. So if you're in remediation, then you do need to participate in that. But nobody has anything, I don't think yet. So this week, everybody will be here. Next week, you don't have anything on Thursday, except for if you want to practice your nursing skills. That sound right?
There's a class at the moment.
Yeah.
You will be working on without 22 without a class being scheduled. Right. Well, just, I guess the question was, we basically have to be here on Thursday.
Not unless you have to be in open lab. Like if you're instructed, sometimes instructors will say you have to be here for that. So unless it's only by exception. So normally no, but if you're on remediation, yes. Or if you've been instructed, you need to go to open lab. Yes. I know, and it's so hard. I'm sorry.
No,
I
the
know.
reason I asked is because like childcare and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't plan for it right now, but it would be good to have a backup plan in case you do have to be here on some Thursdays. Yeah. Childcare is always a challenge. Okay, extra credit. I don't give extra credit opportunities. So I'm just putting it out there. Social media and electronic devices. I mean, we've already kind of talked about recording. I just ask that you guys be respectful. So we're adult learners. I put you guys in charge of your own education. So if you need to step out to go to the bathroom, to take a phone call, do whatever, that is totally fine. I just ask you to be respectful of the other people in the class and not maybe, make a big scene or fuss or whatnot, but just, you handle your own business. I try to give breaks about every hour when I'm teaching, so you will have time to go to the bathroom, to get a drink. You can eat in this classroom. In the lab, it's a little different because they do have supplies and other things that they don't want to kind of cross-contaminate. So Abby will tell you kind of her instructions with eating downstairs during lab time. But please, I encourage you guys just to self-manage. If there's anything that you need, like you're not bound to be in here. What else? Any questions about that? Yeah. No. So you can wear whatever you want on regular days, but during your lab day, you do have to wear scrubs. Good question. Thank you. And clinicals, yes.
So waiting for funding to be able to get the scrubs. So when is it mandatory that we wear them?
Well,
Or
it's mandatory starting first day, but we have lots of students who are waiting for funding, issues with that. Just contact your instructor. So Abby, or Kim, whichever one, I'd probably include them both, and just say you're waiting for funding, and then they'll excuse you for not having your scrubs.
Okay.
Yeah. So just contact your instructor.
I was gonna say, if you don't have scrubs, you can hit the Julia, you can shoot.
Oh, yeah.
That students left something that they donated, I guess, to the program. So you can see.
They get so tired of wearing them. They're like, I never want to see them again. And then they leave them here for our students. So yeah, Julia has a stash of scrubs. Thank you, Amanda.
Okay.
Passwords and logins, please don't show it to your anybody, right? I'm going to protect that. Withdrawing for a course, if something happens, we've had students who they're like a week into the program and then something happens, family emergencies, and they just can't continue. Please just let us know if you're not going to be able to continue, because up until a certain time, you can get your financial portion refunded. And it can show in your transcript as a withdraw, not as a failed or anything like that. So please, if something happens, let us know, even just a quick message, because I know when crises happen, you don't really think about school so much, but we can kind of help you with the financial portion and getting it not be such a bad mark on your transcript, if you let us know. Attendance, we expect you to be here, but like I said, you guys are adult learners. So if you choose not to be here, that's fine. If you're not here in person though, you can't fill out that KWL, and so you won't get that attendance portion for the day. So that makes sense to everybody? Yep. If you're out because of injury or illness, please just let me know. We can make accommodations. We might just need some documentation regarding that. Conflict or problem resolution. We always say, if you have a problem with someone, if it's another student, please go directly to that student. If it's an instructor, please go to that instructor. If you have a problem with Amanda, she's so problematic. But if you have a problem with Amanda, please don't come to me with that problem. What I'd like you to do is go to Amanda and say, hey, Amanda, I don't understand this, or this really didn't feel very good when this happened. Go to that person. If you need somebody as a third party, you actually will have a Amanda, what it's called, or we have our advisory groups. So you'll have a nursing faculty advisor. You'll all be split up into groups, and some of you will be in my group that I'm advising throughout your coursework here. Other students will be with Eileen or Abby or Ken. And so if you need another third party, you can always ask for your advisor. But please, best practice is always just to go to the person that you had an issue with first. Plagiarism, cheating. Anybody who has done it might be expelled from school. So please don't cheat. We also talk a little bit with this about it's using anybody's work and saying that it's your own, right? This also includes AI. So things like ChatGPT. There might be times when we use ChatGPT in the course. Does everybody know what ChatGPT? Anybody not know what ChatGPT is? Okay, so essentially, you can go to ChatGPT and you could say, write my midterm paper on who likes black coffee versus coffee with creamer. And it will actually write you a paper and cite sources and do all this stuff, right? It's kind of crazy. The thing about it is it's not always correct. There was, I don't know if you guys saw in the news a while back, there was a lawyer who used Chat GPT or some sort of AI service to do research for his case that he was presenting. And it looked really official and it had all this background and it said, hey, for this case, hey, go ahead, let us see.
I just have a question. What class is
This is MedSurg one for nursing.
this? Thank
No,
you.
okay, thanks for visiting. And so this lawyer had this big thing written out and it had, you know, per this case on this date, this happened and all these things. And so he used it in court,
No.
but Chat GPT made it up. It was not real. So he actually got in a lot of trouble. So just know you can't always rely on Chat GPT. It really is a artificial intelligence that's making up information based on algorithms. We've had students turn stuff in from Chat GPT before. We have ways of finding like who does that. So please don't just use your own info. It's not, I'm not saying Chat GPT is bad, right? We had a student, we actually used it. I was in lab last year and we said, hey, what are the steps of how we should do, you know, this skill? And so we say, let's use Chat GPT. Let's see what they say versus what our book says. Let's compare and contrast to that. So it can be something that we use, but please don't use that as a primary source when you're doing any writing or research, because I don't think it's always correct. Actually, I know it's not always correct. Okay, going on, we've got library services, disability and support services, all these things. I'm not going to go over all of them. Any questions about the syllabus? No? So just so you know, some of the things we talked about, the late work, the attendance, testing policy, academic integrity, that's nursing program. So that's going to be the same for every class you go to. So if you're late with an assignment in a different class, you still have to follow the same procedure. Don't email me, email the teacher who's teaching that class or message them on Canvas with that assignment. That's how you're able to turn in late assignments across the board. All right, how we doing? Doing okay? All right, I think we have a couple more things. We talked about FA Davis, late work, due dates, test final, office hours. Okay, so let's look a little bit at Davis. Actually, we already did. So does it make sense to you guys when you see all of these assignments in FA Davis that you have to go find the specific one from Canvas?
Right.
Yeah, okay. So if for some reason you access the wrong assignment, just message me, let me know. But I really want to make sure you follow Canvas. Canvas is going to be the kind of your guide of what you want to look when you're saying, gosh, what is due this week? Please follow the Canvas modules. Yeah. You don't have to do it again, but I reset it in FA Davis. So if you want to redo it again, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. How about let's just do 5 minutes. 5 minutes, go to the bathroom, get some coffee, and then we're going to jump into some of our content for this week on political judgment, critical thinking.
Yeah. Right now, the cafeteria has a machine.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. Happy. Yeah, so she's teaching the foundation class at 11. Perfect. Yeah, I'm going to talk to her.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So right now I'm in FA Davis.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna click on this.
Yeah.
So I read chapters 1, 2, and 3.
Yep, and then you do.
And then I do the quiz.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
Exactly. Yeah, good job. Yeah.
So, we will be doing this today, pretty.
Yes, we are. Yeah, when we come back, we'll start it. Yeah, but good question.
Like they put like building something within.
There you go.
Mess up. Yep. And it's-
I like to record the lecture on my iPad
Totally fine.
and then write notes as I'm doing it, and then I just go over it at home.
Okay, yeah, totally fine. Thank you for
It's just
asking.
the voice.
Oh, no, it's
Okay.
everybody learns in different ways. What was your name?
Myrna.
Myrna, nice to meet
Nice to
you.
meet you too.
Yeah, thank you. Totally fine. Thank you for asking.
Said you live in Lakewood?
Mhm.
Your kids go to high school? What high school do they go to?
They go to Lakes.
My kid does too.
Oh, that's
I have
awesome.
a freshman.
Oh, so we just started?
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Well, I have 3 kids, but he's my oldest.
Yeah,
He's my freshman one.
Oh,
And I have a middle school one, and then my youngest is a 5th grader.
oh, where's the 5th grader at?
I live on base, so he
Oh,
goes
on
to
school?
Evergreen. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then
Yeah.
my middle school one goes to Thomas.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like, Mom, I don't want to move from here. I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, see what happens, at
Yeah.
least for this year.
Well, I've tried to, we want to buy a house, but it's just really expensive right now. And
Yes.
I don't think it's gonna get any cheaper, but it's also really hard to find like a good area.
Yeah. It
So,
can be kind of crazy.
yeah. so-
Nice. Well, nice to meet you, Myrna. Hey, question? Just really quick. Where can I find Laura? She's gonna be downstairs in her office if she's available. She has a lot of meetings and things like that. I would try to go probably during the break between 10 and 11.
Okay.
Mhm. And then do you know where Julia's office is? Like downstairs? That's okay. So just right downstairs from us, but on that side of the hallway is like
Okay.
where all the nursing department offices are. You can see Julia through like the glass windows, and that's where Laura's office is at.
And she's just B3 something.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh.
And
What
it's gonna say her
is-
name somewhere, or do I just?
So,
Laura
well,
Cooper?
in her office, that's what I'm saying, go to Julia first, because
Oh.
it's a locked area. And
I
so
see, I can't
Julia,
even get-
you
Okay,
can't even get in except for going through Julia.
okay, Julia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come find me afterwards if you need help. All right, so in my class, I like to use a resource called Menti Mentor, Menti Mentor. I call them mentees. As this is logging up, I'm gonna have you guys log into the Menti. You can do this on your phone if you like, or you can do it on your computer. It's a way that we can be interactive during our lectures. So can we do it both? You can do it both, but I would just do it on one. And then I'm gonna publish this later, so you will have access to see it overall. So you can either scan the QR code and it will take you right there, or you can go to menti.com and they'll ask you to enter a code. And you can enter this code here. So once you have gotten into the Menti, it should have a little thing where you can react. And I'd like you to give me a little thumbs up or some sort of reaction so that I know that you're in the Menti. Ooh, oh, hey, 13. Good job, you guys. Anybody need help finding the Menti? All right, and if you haven't, go ahead and log into the Menti. You can do to the QR reader or through menti.com and enter the code. Either your phone or your laptop will work. Really just depends on what you prefer. And once you are in, go ahead and give me a little thumbs up. Does it have other emojis on there or just a thumbs up? Just a thumbs up. Okay. We'll talk about more of those in just a minute.
Right, anybody need help getting into the Menti? Not so much? Okay, this Menti is more for fun. Oh, actually, let me see if this guy works. Okay, I have a little thing that I forget to use sometimes and it lets me click through. So welcome to MedSurg 1 and has anybody used Menti before? No? Oh, this is so exciting. Okay, this is one of my favorite tools to use while lecturing because it actually lets us kind of communicate and talk about something together. So welcome. On this slide, it does have a lot of the different emojis or reactions that you can see down here. So I like to use those during lecture. If you're like, hey, this really makes sense. I got this. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a heart, whatever. If something is really not making sense to you, first of all, I encourage people to raise your hands, ask questions. If that's not you, if you're not comfortable with that, hit the question mark. I try to pay attention to the different reactions. And so I can try to go back over something we talked about if I see that there's a question mark on there. The cat emoji is just fun. I just think, why not? If you can have a cat emoji on something, why not just have it on there? Hey, welcome. So go ahead and join us on Menti. So first thing you're probably going to see on your screen, it says, how excited are you to be in school? So go ahead and choose one of these options. How are you feeling about today? So go to menti.com and then you enter that code. Okay, a lot of people are very tired. I get it. We came here really early today. Okay. There's some mixed results here. Everybody feel like they feel comfortable knowing how to vote, put something in? All right, what about this one? Which class are you the most excited for this quarter? And no, there's no extra credit for saying MedSurg. Okay, I was gonna say no love for clinical, but a little bit. Mental health, I love that. There really is, we rearranged our whole curriculum and moved mental health to your very first quarter because it's such a need, and understanding how we can help people with their mental health, mental distress really impacts how we treat them in their medical surgical conditions as well. So I'm excited to put it at the beginning. All right, so we got a lot of classes we're excited about. What about this? What helps you learn? And I think you can check multiple. I can't remember what I chose on this one. But is it practicing it yourself? Seeing it demonstrated, writing it, seeing it, maybe hearing it said out loud? Oh, you got a lot of seeing it and practicing it yourself. And then go for you. So you guys are gonna love lab, where you get to practice it yourself, you get to see it done. Those of you who really like those hands-on practice. All right, if you work right now, where do you work? Are you hospital, long-term care, other? School is your very full-time job? All right, a nice mix here. All right, hopefully this will work. If you can see the map on your devices, you should be able to drop a pin where you were born. It doesn't have to be exact. We're not going to judge you if you're like in the wrong county or I'm just curious because you can see we have people that are born from a lot of different places. We have a lot of different views and perspectives. Super fun. All right, you only get to keep one. Which one are you keeping?
Don't do that.
Are you keeping coffee, chocolate, tacos, or salad?
Man. Oh, God. That's so mean.
What I'm curious is, if some of these would change later in the term. Everybody's like, forget the salad, just give me a coffee. All right, where's your favorite place to relax? Have fun. Do you want to go to the beach, the mountains, go shopping? You want to stay home. There is no relaxation. Those dang kids. All right, so we have a lot of homebodies and beach goers. I love it. All right, what one word best describes you? And I think I put it in so you can put a couple options. So if you want to enter it once, you can enter another word as well.
One word.
Yeah, I feel like.
Maybe a combination of two words.
Yeah. A couple of hyper people. Aggressively helpful. I'm so curious. I love this. There's so many of you guys that are motivated, you're determined, you're resilient, a little bit anxious. That's pretty normal. All right, this is amazing. I love this. All right, let's move on to our next one. Oh, my mom sent me this yesterday. This was 20 years ago when I was first starting nursing school. So you can tell it is very much out of the early 2000s with my little twisted back hair. And just to show you, it is possible you can graduate and make it through nursing school. That is me with my husband, 22 years ago, I guess. No, that was, anyway, this was 20 years ago. Anyway, so it is possible. You can make it through. You can still smile. I'm sure I got my hair done like after finals because that just wasn't happening before. Any questions that you have? So this is just a time when I'm doing a Menti about our content that you can put in a question maybe about content that we covered. Something you're like, you know what, we really didn't cover this and I have a question. Yeah.
I think it's self-explanatory, but like, so with the syllabus, so you could come in like next week, how you can think of the ACEs courses and everything prior to Monday morning.
Yep, everything is due before coming into class.
Okay.
From the
Or
last.
but as far as like read, like you don't get ahead or what you're.
I would maybe do some of the reading, but I don't know how far ahead I would work. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me show you. So if we go back to our MedSurg class, and I appreciate you guys for bringing this up because I don't think I explained this very well. Under week 1, you can see when things are due. Like today, we've got to join the F.A. Davis class. Everybody's got to do it today or submit it. Later this week, we have our syllabus acknowledgement quiz on the 27th, introduce yourself, and then the edge quizzing. That's just for this week, but the days are kind of different from the lecture day. Next week, starting on next Monday, on 10/2, do it 8 o'clock in the morning. So right before class starts, you need to do your edge quizzing on growth and development and do the ACEs scores before class. So this week is kind of a really full one. That's why I really didn't give you a ton of assignments for this week or coming up to next week, because that is part of that coming to class prepared, is that you did your assignments, you did your reading. You should be coming to class having a pretty good foundation about what we're talking about so that we can interact with each other. I like to do a lot of like breakout sessions or things where you guys are grouping up together and talking about the concepts that we're discussing that week. And if you haven't done the reading, you haven't done the assignments, you're not going to be able to engage in the lecture discussions very well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions about it? Yeah, go ahead.
So, do you have like notes that you like your the notes that you can give to students to follow?
Yeah, so under, like you can see weekly resources here for week 1. under weekly resources, I go ahead and give you the manufacturer's PowerPoints. That's a lot about what I base my lectures on. If I have other information, so let's say, I think week 8, I had a bunch of stuff. Oh Lordy, what did I do? So under the week 8 resources, I put a bunch of, there's the PowerPoints, but then there's some like mnemonics of things that might help you understand some of the topics. So I would look through those weekly resources because they're going to have things in there that are helpful for you. If there's other things we're going to do in class or things I think might be helpful, I'll put those in the resources, the resource page as well.
Also, like, test how, like, let's say test 1. So you some topics to read on.
I'll give you a study guide. It'll be pretty broad, but it will help you kind of focus on certain areas to study.
Scale of 1 to 10, how high is 0?
You know, it's a really good question. And actually, I love talking about this because there is a very good chance that you're going to go into your first test, which is maybe mine. It might be Foundations. I'm not sure who's doing the first nursing test. But you're going to walk out a little shook because nursing tests are hard and we plan them that way. And the reason we plan that way is because for you to graduate this program, there's nothing if you cannot walk out of here after graduation and pass the NCLEX. The NCLEX is a very difficult test, and we model our tests after the NCLEX. And so some of the wording that's used, some of how they present the information is really hard. Does that mean we're going to hit you with the hardest questions at the first test? No, but they're going to be what we call NCLEX style questions. And do you guys, anybody not know what NCLEX or let me just read it. So NCLEX is a national test that you guys have to take to practice as a nurse. Everybody, doesn't matter if your GPA was 3.0 or 4.0, you all have to go take the same test. It's not the same questions, they randomize it. We'll learn more about it as you progress through the program, but it's a hard test. And I think it would be inappropriate to not prepare you well for that test. So nursing tests are hard. And we start out that way because we want to prepare you for those. A lot of what Amanda does in support class, a lot of times is like test taking strategies. How do you read through questions? When you have this question that just seems bizarre and like how, like, okay, you're asking me a question, but every single answer is right. How do I choose the most right answer? Those are those are NCLEX style questions. And so we're going to teach you how to go through those questions and how to be successful because I want you to pass this course. I want you to graduate from this program. I also really want you to be able to pass the NCLEX so that you can practice as a nurse. And so sometimes it's going to be like, man, they're just so hard on us. And it's true, we are. Because we want you to be prepared to practice as a nurse. And we also want you to be prepared to pass that NCLEX. So that was, I don't know, soapbox or whatever you call it, but I feel passionately about that. Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a question. You gave us the course outcome.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know if you can explain what is this called? Why is it called medical science and not in that?
Yeah. So we were talking about, like earlier, talked about, we all took anatomy and physiology. And this really starts to introduce the pathophysiology. Like what is maybe wrong with some of these things, with some of our body systems. That's really what MedSurg usually delves into. This week, we're talking about critical thinking, clinical judgment. I kind of think it's a little bit of a softball, which means like it's an easier topic to delve into. You're actually going to revisit this topic in Foundations later this term. So it's kind of just easing you into the MedSurg course. Partially because next week we start to talk about gerontology, which is older adults and some of the problems that they have. And also about death and dying, right? And so while dying itself and death is not, that's a normal process, we still are taking care of our patients as they're experiencing that. And so we need to know how to take care of them through those processes, as well as some of the abnormal processes like heart disease, kidney disease, things like that. Does that make sense? So in this class, you're going to kind of learn more about disease processes, things that happen with people in their health journey. Foundations class, you're going to learn about assessments, about how to do different skills. Mental health is kind of more self-explanatory, you know, kind of like that mental health. How do we put that into the whole person that we're dealing with? Simulation, you gotta go start practicing some of those assessment skills, critical thinking, some of that stuff you learned in this class. You're like, okay, I've got a diabetic. I know that I probably should maybe start doing some of these things. You could actually practice in the simulation lab. And then when we do clinicals, you could actually go practice on real people. So they all the classes work together, but they're kind of all cover different things. All right, any other questions? No? Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and do another Menti that's more geared towards critical thinking. What I'd like you guys to do is, let me get out of here. Go ahead and pull out your KWL form. And we're going to talk about critical thinking, clinical judgment today. And so two things, we're going to join the new Menti, and I want you to fill out the K and the W about critical thinking, clinical judgment, and gosh, what was the other one we're talking about today? Settings, I believe, healthcare settings. Issues in nursing, that's it. So we're just going to spend a few minutes writing down. If you didn't do a whole bunch of reading, just think about what is clinical judgment? What is critical thinking? What are maybe some issues in nursing? And then fill those out. And then the W is what do I want to know? Maybe I want to know something about an issue about critical thinking. Fill that out. You don't have to fill everything out. It doesn't have to be from a draft. It doesn't. I'm not going to spell check it. I'm going to spell it. All right, if you filled out the K and W, please go ahead and join the Menti. And then once you've joined, give me a little reaction so I know that you guys are in. Excuse me. All right, let's just take 60 more seconds. If you haven't filled out the KWL, finish off with that. All right, we're still missing quite a few people from the Menti, so go ahead and join. All right, anybody not in? I think it's not giving me updated. It's kind of taking the time. The Wi-Fi, this is a brand new building as of 2 years ago, I think, maybe that. And for some reason, the Wi-Fi does not work fantastic out here. It works actually better in the older buildings. I wish I knew why, because you'd think a new building would have like fantastic Wi-Fi and all those things. Okay, I'm gonna start moving through just so we can start talking about some of it. Keep trying to join if you can't get through. Oh, the Menti isn't on here. If it kicks you out, let's see, Bree, will you read me the number at the top?
Yeah, 4387,
One more time?
4387, 850.
850?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, so if it logs you out, there's the number to get back in, although green probably doesn't show up very well.
So if I go to menti.com, it only takes me to that Menti meter.
Yeah.
So then entering that code.
Okay.
4387 850, but then it wasn't, of course, it'll probably do it. But then,
I think it's probably just, oh, you're probably just waiting for me.
yeah.
Yeah, you're in.
Oh, okay.
Nope, you're good, because now you probably should see something else.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So learning objectives for today, when we're talking about this, we're gonna go mainly over chapter 1. That's got a lot of the meat of the content for this. I want to make sure you guys read chapters 2 and 3. They're valuable, they're important. Some of the assignments are related to those. Want to talk about what's the difference between critical thinking and clinical judgment? Why is critical thinking and critical judgment essential to nursing? We're going to compare the nursing process to the clinical judgment process, describe attitudes of critical thinkers, define vigilance, prioritize patient care and activities based on Maslow's, discuss importance of collaboration, and use SBAR. All right, what is the percentage of new nurses that are able to practice safely?
23. Oh,
Answer on the Menti.
oh.
So it's okay. There's a lot of people who forget we answer on the Menti, but that's okay if you say it too. So you were right, 23 of new grads. Does that surprise anybody, or did it surprise you when you read that?
Yeah.
That's kind of shocking. That feels like a really low number.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because a lot of our new graduates we found are not really able to use critical judgment and critical thinking to guide their practice, to guide what they're doing. You have to recognize changes in conditions really quickly, and you have to be able to make judgment calls in the moment, and that can be really difficult. So we're going to talk about critical thinking and how that informs or helps us decide how we're giving care to people. So critical thinking. So it's using cognitive skills or strategies to try to get to an outcome that we want. It helps us understand what is going on and why it's going on. We like to use the what's up mnemonic to figure out what's happening with our patient. We go see a patient and we're going to ask them a lot of these questions. The where is it? How does it feel? Aggravating or alleviating factors. Aggravating means what makes it worse. Alleviating is what makes it better. Timing, is it all the time? Is it just sometimes? Is it only when you move? The severity, useful other data, maybe what medicines are they on? When did it start? And patient's perception of the problem. What do they think is the issue? All right, I want you to turn to somebody next to you. And I want you to, without looking, go over the what's up mnemonic with you. So just turn to each other. What is it? What is Isn't it funny that if I had this slide up, you would be like, oh yeah, I got it, no problem. And the minute you see this slide, you're like, okay. It's always good to practice. All right, so clinical judgment. What is clinical judgment? That's using critical thinking and decision making, and then what's happened, like what's our outcome that we get from that? It's using critical thinking, attitudes, skills, and it helps us to know what do we do. So after we critically think about something, it's actually the action that we start to do to help treat our patients. We talk about critical thinking attitudes, and I think these are really important. These are things that are essential to nursing. Which attitude, so question, answer on the mentee. Which attitude is being used by the nurse that says, I don't know, but I'll find out? Is that intellectual integrity, intellectual autonomy, intellectual courage, or intellectual humility? Good, we got some varied answers. I like this. All right, the correct answer is intellectual humility. Oh, I didn't show the right answer. So that's saying, hey, I don't know. You know, like maybe the patient saying, hey, why didn't the doctor order this medicine for me? I might not know. So I'm going to say, you know what? I don't know, but let me find out the answer for you. What about intellectual autonomy? What's an example of intellectual autonomy? What's that? You will make decisions. Yeah, like, has anybody's parent told you, like, would you jump off a bridge because your friends are all doing it? Right? It's kind of that same thing. Are you practicing in a certain way? Are you doing something just because everybody else is? Is it the right way? Maybe nobody else wears gloves to do soiled linen changes. Ugh, right? Is that okay? Or is that okay because everybody else is doing it? Or are you using that intellectual attitude of intellectual autonomy is saying, hold on, everybody might be doing this, but I don't think this is right. I feel like this might expose me and other patients to some pathogens. What about intellectual integrity?
Being honest, like about the information.
Honest about the information, that's great. Speaking up when you see something.
Yeah.
It's really about if you see a problem, if there's an issue, saying something, not just letting it slide. So nursing process versus clinical judgment. When I went to school, we didn't really talk much about clinical judgment. It was all about the nursing process. They're still both very helpful and useful, and they work together. So the nursing process is we gather data, right? We go into somebody, we ask them questions, we identify what the problems are. We say, okay, what outcomes do we want to see? You know, this is happening, this is where I want them to be. I might plan some things for them. I'm going to implement that plan. I'm going to do the things. I'm going to evaluate what happens. Nursing judgment or clinical judgment, we're going to look at the cues that we have. So it's kind of like doing your assessment. We're going to prioritize the hypothesis. So a hypothesis is saying, I think this is what's going on. And we're going to prioritize those of what we think is most important down to least important. We're going to find some solutions, things we want, that we think are going to help with that. Then we're going to take action and evaluate those outcomes and repeat. Sometimes you'll see this put together in this wheel, where outside you have the nursing process, assessment, diagnosis, planning, implementation, evaluation. And then clinical judgment is the inside, where back and forth, you're recognizing clues, you're analyzing clues, back and forth, evaluating outcomes, taking action. They all lead to that clinical decision making. What are you doing for the patient? Okay, so we talked about clinical judgment process. I want you guys to go ahead and use the mentee to put them in the order. I know I just showed you them on a circle, and now I'm asking you to put them in like a 1, 2, 3 order. but go ahead to the best of your ability. Put these in order on the slide. Anybody need a few more minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so you can tell by if everybody had the same answer, these would all be like, they would have the same length out. So you guys were all pretty dang sure that identify and analyze clues was first, right? We did good with that. We got a little bit hazy, especially at the end here. So identify and analyze clues. Yes, that was number one. Then we prioritize our hypothesis. We're going to make some solutions. So based on what we think is wrong, we're going to say, okay, these are think what the solutions are. We're going to take action, evaluate it, and then repeat. So vigilance. Now we're going to talk a little bit about nursing vigilance. So go ahead and just write in, what is nursing vigilance? These are really good. And you guys can see kind of what everybody's answering on the screen here. You know, being mindful, alert of patient statuses and cues. Stay aware, keep your guard up and focus. Have awareness of patient's cues, anticipating problems. Now, these are all really good. And really the core of vigilance is being ready, right? It's we're attentive, we're alert, we're watchful, especially when we're taking care of patients. People usually aren't coming to see us because they're great, right? Unless you're working at an office and they're just having a checkup or something like that, usually people come to seek medical care because something is wrong. So we want to be very alert and watchful. We want to anticipate what problems might be happening. We want to identify those before they become more serious, right? And we want to intervene. So let's think about this situation for a minute. You're at our grocery store, we're shopping, you got to pick up Cheerios, and the guy in front of you in line collapses. What do? Yeah. Before we call 911, what might be an appropriate step? Yes. What are we assessing? ABCs, yeah, is he breathing? Is he conscious? Something going on? Does he have a medical alert bracelet that might tell us what's going on with him? There's somebody else with him that might be able to say, oh yeah, he's a diabetic. He's been saying he's real hungry. You know, what else is going on? Chances are we might still need to call 911, but we want to see what's going on first, right? Because if we just call 911 first, his heart's not beating. What's happening? He's dead, right?
Mhm.
Now, if we start CPR, he might live, but he has a better chance of living the sooner we start CPR. So check an open airway. Oh, hey, anybody with there? Is there a history? Call 911, right? We're kind of looking, we're assessing, anticipating problems, and we're generating solutions and getting help. So communication. Communication is key in nursing and all of healthcare. It's really important that we know how to communicate not only with each other as nurses, as other healthcare providers, but among that team, right? Because you're gonna have to communicate with your nursing NICUs, your nurse practitioners, your administrators, like all of these people, you're gonna have to be able to communicate with and communicate effectively. When you have an issue, I want you to think about cussing, which sounds kind of funny, but it's an acronym that's used to help you elevate your concern, or it's kind of like, what do they call it? Cueing or scripting, where it helps your words to have more meaning. So things saying like, I am concerned. A lot of places, like I know years ago, I worked at Franciscan. That was one of their things that they taught the docs and they taught the nurses. If we said, I have a concern, that was a cueing that everybody across the board knew that the doc had to stop and listen to nursing because they really felt like something was wrong. That was kind of our scripting we would use. I am uncomfortable. That really lets somebody know, like, I know you said you want this medication for somebody, but I am uncomfortable giving it to them because their blood pressure is 70/48, and I feel like this might drop it to an unsafe level. You know, it's using these keywords. Also, this is a safety issue. I understand you want this person to have a CT scan, but unfortunately, the weight limit for our CT scan is only this much, and it's not safe for this patient to go into there, right? So that's some of the ways that we can communicate, especially to our providers, but everyone in general. That really helps to elevate that concern. So, yeah. Oh, hey, Chuchi. Good morning.
That's gonna not be interrupting with that.
If you guys haven't met Chuchi, this is your mental health professor.
That was a proper entrance.
Yeah. Good morning. What's up?
I just want to make sure you found one.
I grabbed the one from 308 or 309.
This one.
Sure.
And then that one.
And that will just live here. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Where's all the food?
It's in the back. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for visiting. All right. We're actually getting low on time, so I'm gonna skip through this activity, but I'm gonna publish the Menti at home. You can do it at home if you like. So SBAR is another really common communication device we use. Anybody used SBAR before, been trained with SBAR? This is fabulous. I use this sometimes with my family because it's just very clear. Where I say, what is the situation? What's going on? What's the background? What's been going on before this? What's your assessment or analysis? Like, what are those details that we're looking at? And then what's our recommendation? Which has been really helpful. This is really helpful. A lot of our new grads, when they go out, they're like, I have to page the doc in the middle of the night and I don't know what to say. And so when I'm precepting some of our new graduates at the hospital or wherever we're at, I give them actually a little form that says SBAR. I say, okay, before you can make the call, let's write it out. And then you have this to use, and it makes it a lot easier when you're talking to somebody. So I want you guys to turn to each other or a small group. We're just going to do this for 2 minutes. I want you to think of a situation you encountered. It doesn't have to be medical for the patient. Maybe it's something you have with a partner, a friend. And I want you just to give a quick SBAR to the person next to you. All right, let's go ahead and pull it in. It's easy to want to put a lot of information in, especially when we're learning how, but we're going to have. Sorry, I have teenagers I have to clap at sometimes. We're going to have a lot more opportunity to practice SBAR. I encourage you guys in your everyday life, just try practicing SBAR when you're trying to communicate to somebody else. Sometimes it can be really helpful. I just want to be respectful of your guys' time because I could lecture for the next hour and you wouldn't get a break. And I know you guys really want to break before next class. All right, active listening. We probably all have heard about active listening, especially when we're talking to our patients and our coworkers. I want to make sure we're using active listening. One of my biggest pet peeves is when we go to see the doc or nurse, whoever, and people come in, they sit us down, and then they sit at their computer and breathe. I'm gonna pick on you because you're just right here. And they're sitting here and they're just like typing. Okay, what's your birthday? What's this? Okay, yeah, why? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that active listening? No. You know, and it's part of the challenge that we face in the medical field that we use a lot of computers and technology. One thing I challenge you guys to do, just level set at the beginning. Bree, I'm so glad you're here. I've got to put a lot of information on this computer. So just know I'm going to be looking at the screen from time to time, but I am listening to you. Okay. That helps to level set. So she knows I'm listening to her. I know I've got to look at the computer screen, but I'm still going to be trying to come back over and make eye contact. So it's really important for people to feel heard. So we want to also verify what we hear, right? Not only are they telling us, maybe somebody's, I'm trying to think of something, I don't know, repeat back, right? I heard you say like you stubbed your toe, and she's like, no, I hit my finger. I'm like, oh, I really wasn't listening very well. You know, repeat back what you heard and then ask for clarifying questions. I was just talking to my mom-in-law. She's waiting for hip surgery and she's like, well, I told the doc I really hurt. And I said, okay, did you also tell him that you can't walk anymore, that you can't bear any weight on that leg, that you can't do any of the normal things that you would do? And she's like, well, no, I just told him I hurt. And I'm like, well, sounds like they didn't really ask a lot of clarifying questions for her. We're not going to do active listening because you guys are great talkers. And I think you'll do a great job of cracking this on your own. So at home, sometime this week or here, we're somewhere in your life, I want you guys just to practice some active listening. Just think through, how many times am I actually looking at this person? How many times am I listening to what they're saying? Or am I just making a list of what else I need to do today? You know, it's really hard to actively listen. So let's just practice a little bit as we go through the week. So prioritizing care. How do we know what is the most important thing? So we like to use Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you guys should have studied in psychology or some of your prereqs. We want to think about the things that are life-threatening, right? Those things are first. Somebody is not breathing. Okay, that's probably the first issue. We need to start breathing for them, or maybe they're choking, there's something lodged in their throat. We probably need to do the Heimlich or something to get them breathing. After that, we go to health threatening, something that's disturbing them. Maybe they're diabetic and they don't know how to take care of themselves, or diabetes is totally unmanaged. We really need to help with that. And then the health promoting. How do we keep them healthy or help other aspects of their life be healthy? Here's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm not going to go over all of it, but a lot of it, these physiological needs. You would be so shocked to see patients who are so resistant, they're angry, they're hurt, they're annoyed, they're frustrated, and they don't want to deal with anybody. But if you go in, you're like, how are you doing? You look a little bit cold. Can I get you a warm blanket? You get them a warm blanket and you just listen and look at them, and all of a sudden, some of their physiological needs are better, and they're able to open up about some of these other needs. And so just think through, let's meet whatever their first need is, because they're not going to be able to deal with some of those other needs until we meet their base needs. All right, the nurse, let's practice. The nurse is caring for a patient who's experiencing dyspnea. Dyspnea. Yeah, difficulty breathing. I'm going to use these tough words because guess who else is? The NCLEX. The NCLEX and the medical field. But we have to know these words. So they're experiencing dyspnea, anxiety, hunger, and a tremor. Tremor is like your hand shaking a little bit. Which problem do you address first? So think back to that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, kind of those things we talked about. How do we decide? What do we do first? Yeah, rock stars. Good job. The dyspnea, right? That's going to be a potentially life-threatening issue. They can't breathe. So we want to treat that first. Are they going to want to eat if they can't breathe? Probably not. So collaboration, that's something else we talk about. So we talk about the care team. We have to all collaborate and work together effectively. It's not like we're in silos and I'm doing my job and respiratory is doing their job and the doc's doing their job and housekeeping is doing their job. We're all collaborating with each other. We really want to talk about the patient being part of the team. So it's not just that we're all in our silos working, but working together. It's that we're working together and we're including the patient as part of our care team. We would really like patients to participate in team meetings. So you're going to see a lot of places when you go out to clinicals or if you work in healthcare, they do a lot of rounding. Where the team rounds around on patients and they round with that patient, actively asking them for input, how they're doing, how they're feeling, what they want to see happen. The patient should be a part of that team. Oh, false news. So when we're deciding kind of reputable information, or meaning like, how do I find out what's right? So I want to use critical thinking, clinical judgment and say, okay, I don't really like how, we talked about patients or people not washing their hands, right? So nobody's washing their hands. I don't feel like that's the right thing to do, but how do I know if it's the right thing to do? You want to make sure you're going to correct sources to get your information. So of these sources that might be kind of hard to see, I want you to choose the sources that would be appropriate or good sources of information. So you can't see it. There's a nursing textbook, www.diabetiesabout.com, www.nln.nih.gov, www.mayoclinic.org.
It only lets you pick one.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Well, shoot, that's not what I meant to do. Well, pick whatever one you like. Nursing journal, medical journal, or the ladies' home journal. So pick one, your favorite. Good housekeeping. 17. All right, good job. So a nursing textbook, please use your textbooks. When we say, hey guys, can you go tell me something about burns? We're gonna talk about burns later in the term. I really, really want you to look at your textbook first, okay? You guys paid for it, first of all. It's pretty clear. It's got good information. If you go and find out something that's got www.burns.about.com, that's actually not a very good source of information. NLN, NIH.gov, so things with .gov, mayoclinic.org, those are kind of well-established, what are they called? Entities? Yeah, and so those have some backing behind them. Nursing journals and medical journals are a great place. The Ladies' Home Journal is a magazine. So really magazines, unless it's something that's published by, the Washington Nursing Association or something like that, it's probably not going to have super reputable or information that I'd be confident in. So just make sure we're going to good sources of information. I just put this in here because I want you guys to understand. So the NCLEX PN or NCLEX Practical Nurse, that's what the test that you guys are going to take. Kind of what we talked about earlier today. There's something called the practice analysis, which really goes through and talks about what kind of skills you guys need to have, what kind of questions, they give sample questions of what they're going to have. I put this in a module just called general, I think it's general resources, something like that. You don't have to look at it right now. Remember we talked about cognitive overload? Start looking into all these things, you're going to get a little bit too overloaded too quick. Just know I put this in one of the module, or it's like in a module in the top on its own. You can go look at this sometime. Okay, you've got 9 months to do it. But it's got good information if you ever want to go back and look it up. And okay, we are at the end. Oh, I made it on time. Okay, any questions? You can ask them out loud. You can type them in the Menti. What assignments are you going to do before next week?
Week 1 and week 2.
Week 1 and week 2. Okay, so, but don't forget before you leave, finish your KWL. So we're going to do DL. Oh, definitely not really on time. I'm like 2 minutes over. I'm sorry. I want you to think about something you learned today in our lecture. And since we're long or short on time, just put 1 or 2 things. Once you're done writing in something that you learned, I'd like you to take a picture and submit it to Canvas.
What's up?
What's up?
With the S.
With
Okay,
the S.
that's what I couldn't remember.
That's okay. What does S stand for?
Severity.
Good job.
It's getting there. It was like